YouTube because our producer can't be bothered to actually do the work that it takes to do it. I'm David O'Brien, Braves writer with The Athletic. I'm with my co-host, Eric O'Flaherty, former Braves reliever. What's up, Eric?
Not much, man. Just glad to be getting started.
Yeah, I think the Braves are glad to be getting started with some normal baseball, with a normal week of baseball, because this Champions Week, I mean, while I can understand the appeal of celebrating last year, and you can never forget last year and all that, I think they're ready to turn the page finally and play this year, because it was just constant looking back, constant talking, giveaways, ring presentations, just everything to distract from actually playing.
Yeah, well, all that stuff messes up your routine. You know, I mean, the extra
Walks
15
through
minutes before the game, just standing around, getting stiff, you're trying to be loose. I'm sure they're happy to get on the road and just, have a simple routine again.
Yeah, and, going to a place, San Diego and LA, where they struggled a lot in the past, but not last year. So I'm sure they're going to look forward to, coming off last year when most of these guys were on the team. They don't have the bad taste in their mouths from those years of getting their asses kicked in LA, and not so much San Diego, but definitely LA. So, and it's going to be a lot of things for the other side to be distracted by here. The Braves will be the team that's just playing, San Diego, I think, with the home opener, and then Dodgers, with Freddie. They're having their home opener tonight, by the way. Freddie's playing his first game in LA. So that's a real ballyhooed thing there. So
yeah, it's going to be strange to see him square off against him.
Oh my God. Can you imagine, like, the first time if Kenley faces Freddie the ninth?
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be crazy, man. I want to see how the Dodgers fans I think Dodgers fans will not have probably quite as warm a reception for Kenley as what I'm expecting Braves fans to have for Freddie when the Dodgers come to town, because that's going to be. People said, "Oh, I hope they give Freddie a round of. I hope they treat Freddie well when he comes home." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Freddie's going to get like the longest standing ovation of any returning player in a long time, man. I'll be shocked if it's not like 100%.
It should be. I mean,
it will be. It will be.
Even Baum got a standing ovation in Philly the day after he said, "I hate this place."
How about that, man? That shocked me. The
Philly I love
fans
that.
Showed me something. I really am surprised. Philly, I thought, was the last place he needed to say that. I didn't think they'd forgive him for that.
Well, it says a lot about just owning up to something. I think everybody wants that, in sports. Even the toughest fan bases, if you just can flat out say, "I sucked," or "I blew it," or "that was me," owning up to something buys you a lot of credit with a fan base.
If he would have said, "That's not what I said," or something, or I wasn't saying that about the fans, then they would have been all over him.
Yeah.
But he said, "Yeah, I said it. I didn't mean it. Like, emotions got the best of me."
For anybody who didn't see it, Baum with the Phillies was, he made a couple errors or something, like 3-error inning, and then he finally made a play, and the fans gave him the courtesy cheer, the sarcastic one they give you, when you're pitching and you walk 3 in a row and finally throw a strike, and the cameras caught him saying, "I hate this fucking place."
Yeah, he was coming off the field,
and he owned up to it though.
He was entering the dugout. One of his teammates was there kind of to wait for him to go, "Hey, man, it's all right." And he was like, "I hate this fucking place." you could read his lips so clear. The TV camera was right on him.
Yeah.
It was 3 errors in an inning, right? It was 1 inning.
Yeah, I'm sure he meant it in the moment.
He had a 3-error game at the Braves as a rookie a couple years ago, or last year. It was 2 years ago? Yeah, 2 years ago. He had a 3-error game there. And the thing is, the guy can be really good, too. And he can hit. He's going to probably be a really good player. That's why it's important that Philly should. I think the fans probably realize that. But remember when were you there when D-Row made 4 errors in one game?
No.
He had a 4-error game at San Francisco for the Braves. And then you had the 3-error game in the playoffs by
Brooksy.
By Brooksy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was playoffs, right?
Yeah, that was against the Giants in 2010.
Yeah.
I mean, probably, legitimately cost us the series. And it's tough. I mean, he's got to live with that the rest of his life. I don't think Braves fans ever booed him or anything for it, except maybe in the moment. But, yeah, I mean, it's not like as a player, you don't know you suck when you suck. So booing just kind of piles on to what you already know. And then you get the sarcastic cheer, and you finally shake the bug and make a play. And it's just like
the Bronx cheer.
Yeah.
So the Braves finish off a 3-4 homestand, not what they were hoping for, obviously, and not what they wanted during Champions Week. I'm sure they would have loved to have gone 6-1 against a couple teams they can beat, the Reds and the Nationals. 6-1 because they had huge crowds too, which only makes it worse. You sold out the first 3 games, and you had 38,000 a fourth game on a Sunday afternoon, which gave you 160-some thousand for a 4-game series against the Nationals, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And then so they had huge crowds, and you split with the Nationals, and then you lost split with the Reds, and then you lost 2 out of 3 to a Nationals team that's not very good. So
right.
Yesterday, Braves got just 1 run, 3 hits against Josiah Gray and 4 Nationals relievers. That Josiah Gray that got in the Scherzer deal, he looks good, man.
Yeah. Yeah, he looked pretty tough. I mean, it's the first week of the season.
Yeah. And coming off a 3.5-week spring training, it's just really hard to judge anything right now.
It's hard to gauge anything, and none of it. I mean, you saw where the team was at last August, and you win the World Series.
Yeah, by the way, the Braves last year started 3-4, then won. So they started out 4-4. Last year, if people might have forgot, they lost their first 4 games. Then they won 4 games in a row. Then they lost their next 4 games. So it was a weird season last year to start out. So they come out here to San Diego and play 4 here against the Padres, Thursday through Sunday. The game tonight, by the way, is an early start for West Coast. It starts at 5:10 here for TV back east, which is nice for those people that can't stay awake for a normal 10 o'clock East Coast time start for these games out here out west. And then Sunday would have been a day game, got moved to ESPN. So it's still a day game out here, but it starts at 4 instead of 1 or 12. So really none of the no normal times for these games are all over the board for these 4. But and then 3 highly anticipated games at Dodger Stadium against Freddie Freeman and the Dodgers.
Yeah, well, that Sunday night game shouldn't mess them up too bad because they're either flying or busing to LA. So that's kind of a nice break because sometimes they do that and you got to be on the East Coast the next day or something like that. So that shouldn't affect their travel too much.
Yeah, they'll just get on a bus and go up to LA.
Yeah.
And not have any traffic. So you got like I said, I just think that it's gonna be nice for them to get into a routine of just baseball out here instead of the walk through the Battery and then the ring ceremony with the podium and then there was just something every day. Yesterday was Champions Day at the ballpark, so they had the UGA football team with the trophy. Some of those guys there with the trophy and the Braves with their trophy and the whole thing. So the UGA threw out the first pitch. It's just a lot of stuff, and here have you met this guy, and it just. Come out here, it's going to be baseball for 7 games.
Yeah, I remember, when I was playing, even just starting on the road and doing 2 teams home opener was irritating, Right. It just throws your routine off. You got to be out there for intros, all that stuff. You're just glad when it's done, and then you come home and you got your home opener. And once that's finally over, it's like, all right, now we can just play ball and focus. This stuff definitely it's not, it's not an excuse at all. You still got to play, but just those little things they just annoy you in a sense.
I think it's really good that the Dodgers will have already played their home opener.
Yeah.
Because that would have been even more of a distraction introducing.
So this is the Padres home opener, and then they're done with them.
I think this is their home opener. I can't swear to that. I should have looked at it. I'm not sure. But the Dodgers, they've already opened. So yesterday – I don't know what to think of Max Fried yesterday because I at spring training he had a couple of games where he looked really good for a while, so I'm not worried about him. His velo's up, he's healthy, but he's had 2 mediocre starts so far. Not bad, but not good. Yesterday he left in the 6th inning, got hit by a comebacker in the hamstring. He's okay. They just took him out as a precautionary thing. He was already close to his pitch limit anyway.
Yeah, but
it was a hamstring and nothing else, and he should be fine. But he had, let's see, yesterday 5 1/3. Gave up 3 runs, only 2 of them earned, 7 hits, struck out 4, didn't issue a walk, which is good, obviously. Much of the damage in the first inning again. He allowed 3 hits and 2 runs in the first inning. Then he retired 14 out of the next 16 guys.
Yeah.
So that's good. And for the hamstring thing. So first 2 starts, he's given up 7 earned runs in 11 innings, struck out 9, only walked 1.
Well, I like the no walks, I mean, It's hard to really put too much into starters' performance right now because none of them
Right.
got a chance to fully build up. Like if he had these 2 starts at the end of spring training, you just shake them off and it's
Right.
whatever. The fact that the season started pretty quick, and I think starting pitchers are the guys most likely to be affected. I mean, that's the reason spring training so long in the first place, is just to let those guys build up. So, I mean, Kershaw had a perfect game yesterday, and they had to take him out because he's only thrown 70-something pitches.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to really gauge starting pitching right now, but I haven't thought he's looked bad, just a little off, which is okay this early in the year.
Yeah, and Max is usually his toughest critic too. So
Yeah.
So his comments about himself kind of gives you an indication of where he is. He said, "I think there's a lot of good. I'm getting outs on soft contact, which I try to get and thrive on. I also know that I make mistakes over the middle of the plate. When I make mistakes over the middle of the plate, they're getting hit.
Yeah.
It's refining that, knowing that if I'm going to be missing, I'd rather miss a little off the plate than the middle of the plate. Those are the kind of adjustments you make over the season and be more comfortable in the game setting and being able to make that adjustment pitch to pitch."
Well, especially if your stuff's not there yet. I mean, it's when you're throwing 97 in July and you miss over the middle of the plate, you might get away with it. But when you're down a tick or two, it's a little colder. It's like those mistakes just happen to get hit early on when you don't have your full stuff, you're not fully built up. But those are kind of the things that even spring training you might get away with 94 because the hitters haven't seen 94 yet. Then you jump into the season and everybody's ready to go. Guys have adrenaline, they're amped up, and those mistakes get hit. But again, I mean, it's so early, and starting pitchers haven't really had a chance to build up. It's hard to get a serious read on any starter right now.
Yeah, and it's hard to get a serious read on a lot of hitters too right now because a lot of good hitters are striking out a ton, not doing much at the plate. And then a guy like Marcell Ozuna, who played winter ball, he looks good, man. He looks ahead of most of the Braves hitters. So it just depends, how much the guys did in the offseason because they normally get, 30, 40, 50 at bats at least at spring training. And most of them got like 15 to 20.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah. Josiah Gray yesterday walked 3, but he only gave up 1 hit in 5 innings, scoreless innings. Only run the Braves had was Austin Riley's home run after Gray left the game. They got him in that Max Scherzer trade. Gray's 3 starts against the Braves since August. He's got a 2.25 ERA against the Braves, 21 strikeouts in 16 innings.
He's got a good breaking ball.
Yeah.
Good stuff all around. I mean, good arm slot. I'm watching his highlights right now.
Yeah, so they might have got another. Might have a new Braves nemesis here. It's safe to say they're going to hang on to him after getting him in the Scherzer trade.
Yeah, well, that worked
out. One of the phenoms, one of the biggest stories of the early season, obviously, has been Cleveland's Stephen Kwan, the rookie, off to this ridiculous start. I mean, he didn't even have a swing and miss until yesterday. Not one. I was crunching numbers, though, this morning. As great a start as he's having, like historic start, he's hitting .526, 8 walks, 1 strikeout, 656, 655 OBP, and a .737 slugging percentage. He doesn't even have his team's highest OPS.
Who does? Ramirez?
Nope. Owen Miller, the first baseman, is hitting .524, 11 for 21. He's got 5 doubles, 2 homers, only 2 strikeouts, and a 1,048 slugging percentage, so a 1,593 OPS. So between the two of them, Owen Miller and Kwan, they have 3 strikeouts.
That's crazy, especially in today's game when it's pretty acceptable to strike out.
Yeah. So in further kind of fun with small sample sizes here, Matt Olsen, his first 7 games with the Braves, very encouraging. He's hit .391, and that's after having an 0 for yesterday. He had .391, 2 doubles, a homer, 8 walks, 6 strikeouts, .548 OBP, .609 slugging, 1157 OPS. And again, that's after his 0 for that he had against the Nats yesterday.
Wow.
Austin Riley hitting .333, 8 for 24. Remember that horrible start he got off to last year? He didn't have an extra base hit in the first 15 games and no RBIs. Didn't 18 games maybe for first extra base hit. Anyway, 3 for 33, or 333s, 8 for 24, 2 doubles, 2 homers, and 1151 OPS.
Yeah, I mean, he's picking up right where he left off. I think that, Like the big fear that I always have with a guy that's been great somewhere and gets traded to his, first new team is always getting off to that good start. And so I think that's real encouraging for Olsen to not come in.
Yeah.
Like, he's not a shitty player, but when you come in somewhere and you go 0 for 17 to start the season, like Lindor, how different is Lindor's season last year if he just gets off to a hot start in New York?
No doubt.
And so for Olsen, I think it's huge to get off to a hot start and just show that he can be comfortable and hit anywhere and just not have to deal with a new fan base, not knowing you, new teammates, not knowing what you're capable of. He showed everybody right away, and that whole hurdle's just jumped over.
Yeah.
And now he can just play. I always think that's a big deal when you get off to a hot start with a new team.
And this, Austin's coming off this stunning kind of first team all MLB season last year.
Yeah.
So to see him continue to do what he did last year and show, for anybody that thought, okay, let's see him do it again. Well, he's doing the same thing again. And now that everybody has a book on him now, he ain't surprising anybody. They know what he hits. They know what to try to exploit, whatever.
Yeah.
There ain't much to exploit.
He's not chasing
anymore.
Those sliders. He's taking the tough ones. But, the guys you were just talking about with Cleveland, that's my gut. When you start bringing up a guy hitting 526, I'm like, okay, well, let's see what he's hitting when the league figures him out. And Austin kind of went through that. He came up and he hit everything. He was Babe Ruth
for a month.
Then they figured out how to pitch to him, and he had to adjust back. And that's usually the major hurdle as a major leaguer, is not what you initially do when nobody knows you, but when the league adjusts back and you prove you can adjust back to them and play the cat and mouse. Now you're seeing this is like, now I know who Austin Riley is. He did it for a full year. He's doing it again this year. You know what to expect from him now.
Another classic case of that, what you're talking about, was Francoeur. Remember when Frenchie came up and he just raked, and he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated after like 6 weeks, the natural.
And then everybody stopped throwing him strikes.
And he was the celebrated bad ball hitter and all that.
Yep.
Then people started figuring out, okay, I can get him here. There's a hole in the swing there. And
I faced Frenchie one time, and I'd had a 2-pitch inning, and he got in the box, and I was like, it's like the cardinal sin of a lineup to swing first pitch after a pitcher's had 2 outs on 2 pitches.
Right.
I was like, shit, he might swing here. And I threw a ball. I wanted to find out if he was going to swing more than anything.
Yeah.
But I think just knowing he might come out of his shoes anyway, I wound up kind of guiding the pitch and staying away from contact and throwing a ball. But I've always wanted to ask him, I should, if he would have swung there.
I think the most encouraging thing on the position player side, and we'll get to the pitcher because I thought Bryce Elder the other night
he was
phenomenal.
nasty.
I was really impressed with him. The most encouraging thing for me on the position player side is Marcell Ozuna. And I know there's kind of been a reluctance of some people to embrace him coming back or whatever. So let's forget what happened off the field. I'm talking about on the field.
Yeah.
This guy's doing exactly what the Braves hoped he'd do. Looks a whole lot more like he did in 2020 when he led the leagues in homers and RBI than last year when he really was struggling before got injured, hurt the fingers, then got suspended for the domestic violence. He looks like the guy he was in 2020 right now, or pretty close.
Yeah.
He's hit 321, 9 for 28, 3 doubles, 2 homers. He had the 2-homer game the other night and a double in that game. 5 RBIs, only 2 strikeouts, which is really big.
Yeah.
976 OPS. Still doesn't take a walk. He's got 1 so far, but that doesn't matter. He's not up there to hit the walk. He's up there to hit, not to get. He's not a 500 OBP guy. He's up there to do damage, as he says. And he's doing it so far. He looks really good. He's in great shape, and he's really picked up where he left off in 2020 rather than last year.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the depth of the lineup's playing into that too. It's not like he's the last tough hitter you're facing. You can pitch around him, but just for me, when I watch him and he's smashing balls to right field, I don't really know what else to throw to him. You know, when he's not covering the slider down away, righty. But if you hang a slider down, like just away, at the belt to him, he will destroy it to right center. And he's got some quick hands, so he's tough to get in on. It's kind of like with him, it seems like he's just got a lot of moving parts. Yeah. And a lot of it's up to him. Like if his swing's locked in, he's pretty tough to pitch to. If his swing's all jacked up, you can make mistakes and he'll just miss them. But he's in that mode right now where his timing, his contact's good. He's not getting fooled too much. He's one of those guys that I don't really know how to pitch to when he's healthy.
And if you add Acuna to the top of that lineup, all of a sudden 1 through 4, 1 through 5 is as good as any in baseball, maybe.
Yeah.
It's definitely in the National League as good as any. And that's what so far you did nothing from Eddie Rosario. He's going to get hot. He wasn't hitting at all last year in Cleveland. Then he got hurt, came over to the Braves while he was still in the IL. And remember when he caught fire after coming to the Braves, he carried them for part of the regular season and then obviously in the postseason when he was the NLCS MVP. So, but right now he is 1 for 20 with a single, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. Dansby Swanson has been the one that's been like, oof. But he did show some encouraging signs the other day after that whiff-a-thon of a start to the season. But he's 4 for 25. Dansby is with 2 doubles, 2 RBIs, 3 walks, 13 strikeouts in 25 ABs, 490 OPS. No other major leaguer has more than 11 strikeouts. But he has slowed that the last 2 games significantly. So we'll see where he is, after this trip.
Yeah, he can get hot in a hurry.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we've seen this from him, but plenty of times over the years where all of a sudden he can't hit anything.
Yep.
And everybody gets worried about him. And then,
yep.
It's crazy because in a baseball season, there's so many ways to wind up at your final numbers.
Right.
And some guys are just consistent all year long. Dansby seems to just go in waves where he's incredibly hot. And then he'll have, 2 weeks where he's striking out here and there. I don't know what's better. I mean, it's probably better to have a guy carry a team for 2 weeks and hit 270 than just be a flat 270 throughout the season, because those 2 weeks make a big difference. But that's kind of, with him, if he can cut down the strikeouts and hit the ball the other way, he's usually pretty good.
And if we went back last year, I know we could find
plenty of times,
more than weeks, where he had a week like this where he struck out in half his ABs.
Yeah.
But then you also remember that stretch he had last year where he was like, okay, he's one of the best shortstops in baseball, when he had that stretch for like 3 or 4 weeks when he was the best hitter on the team for about 3 weeks. I mean, he was killing the ball.
Well, and that's a major thing to remember as a player, is it's always amplified when you get that fresh stat line to start a year. If you're a relief pitcher and you give up that 4 spot, you got to carry a 6 ERA for the whole month, even if you pitch great. If you're Dansby and you go 0 for 14 with 7 punchies in July, everybody's I think he's a little cold right now. People might not even pick up on it, but when you start a season shitty or you start a season hot, it's amplified and everybody sees it. But it's such a long year. Your numbers usually find out where they're going to be. That's that water finds its level quote.
And then another guy like that, Alex Dickerson. Everybody, if you haven't watched the games, you just look at his stat line. This guy's 0 for 10 with 3 strikeouts. 4 of the 7 balls that he's put into play have had exit velos of over 100 miles an hour.
I think the balls aren't really flying the same. Because he's hit a few balls, and I've seen him jogging off the field shaking his head that might have been out in different years. But I've seen a lot of balls around the league that are winding up at the track.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm going to do a note on that today. I was talking to Travis Darno the other day, and catchers know this shit as well as anybody. Pitchers and catchers know exactly what the difference is, because they have their hands on them the whole game. He said, was talking about the balls and how they weren't carrying that first week. I said, who was he talking about? Control. Somebody was a little off, and he was talking about the balls. I said, are the balls slicker this year? He said, they're slicker. He goes, so the seams are higher. He goes, I mean, who knows? It might be different tomorrow. I really don't know. But this past week, he said, I noticed fly balls started dying a little earlier and line drives carrying a little further. Yeah. He said, I know he was talking about the Reds. They had a few that they weren't trying to hit batters, but the ball slipped a little more. So it probably makes it a little harder for pitching. And I asked him again to kind of elaborate on that. He said, I think on the balls down at the track, because the Braves had like 5 or 6 on this homestand or home runs and any other time, in the summer or whatever. He said, I think because of the bigger seams, and it made sense, because if you put the ball in the air, it's going to go higher instead of further now. So whereas the line drive is more like a golf swing, and it just kind of takes off, with that backspin, kind of like Olsen's home run the other day. He said that was a 19-degree angle. It was low, but it just kept carrying. He said, to me, that tells me the ball we have been using, the seams are higher. So it's making the fly balls kind of die a little more, and the line drives are carrying a little more. He said, that's what I've noticed, at least watching highlights and watching the games that we've played.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Those seams will grab and keep the ball elevated on a low line drive, but on a high one, a fly ball, they're going to keep pulling it up higher. And eventually when that when that velocity dies out, the ball's just going to fall straight down. But if they're slick and low seams, they'll just cut through the air and get out, before they start to die. I've seen so many balls that, like the ball Giancarlo Stanton hit last night, and he stood there at the plate, and the announcer announced it as a home run, and then realized it was caught, the radio guy. Those, I've seen quite a few of those where guys seem pretty convinced that they got him, and they didn't get out.
Yeah, because I know what it was now, the conversation. I started talking to Travis, and we were talking about pitchers struggling a little bit, and I said how different it is with only having 3.5 weeks of spring training instead of 7. And he said, yeah, he goes, they haven't built up pitch counts and all that. And he goes, and especially with the balls being different this year. And that's when I was like, oh, really? And I asked him about the balls. So that's what, but he was the one that brought it up.
He's had a lot of practice in New York, kind of saying things, but not saying things, like what he said to you about, I don't know if the ball will be the same tomorrow.
Right.
I mean, that's me reading into it, that he's kind of onto it, that the balls change a lot, and MLB tinkers with them, which I don't know what other sport the ball changes in that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you're pitching, your slider breaks more all of a sudden. Your curveball breaks more, your fastball rides more, your sinker might stay a little straighter. So control problems changing the balls would make sense.
And you're talking about baseball, how they'll change it. You've seen this, you've seen Rob Manfred last year being conscious of when people were talking about, there's either too much offense or not enough, and all of a sudden it changes on a dime, and then they deny that the balls are changed and all that, and then somebody in some scientists test the balls and finds out that no, the balls have changed, dude, you're lying.
Yeah.
So they don't do that in football.
No, it's just so weird to just see. It's the players being fooled.
Yeah,
that's so weird.
MLB owns the baseball, the company that makes the baseballs.
Even in the playoffs, I felt like the ball wasn't flying as much, at least the first round. I was watching a series and being like, damn, I thought he crushed that. And then it winds up at the track. It'd just be nice if it was just the same damn ball.
It was so noticeable in this homestand, though, compared to early last year. Remember, the ball was flying early last year, and you're like, holy shit, this is like a home run park now.
Yeah.
And then this time, the ball was like dying. Every time you'd think, oh, he's got that one, it'd die on the warning track.
Yep.
There were hardly any home runs in this series, man. Or this homestand.
That'd be so frustrating as a player, though, because a pitcher, trying to throw balls with different seams. I mean, if you watch a game, the balls are supposed to be the same, and you'll see a pitcher throw 2 or 3 balls out. And if you handed it to, somebody that's not trained and didn't pitch for as long as these guys did, they could never tell you the difference. But a pitcher can grab a ball and feel the difference in a split second. Be like, this one sucks. You ever seen that video of Lincecum throwing balls out in Colorado? Yeah. He could tell supposedly what balls had been in the humidor and which ones hadn't. And he was throwing the juice balls away.
Well, and that's the other thing is I'm going to be interested to see as the season goes along. Like Travis said, though, this is going to be you have to give it a bigger sample size to tell. But I want to see what the humidor effect is going to be, because every ballpark has a humidor now. That's new this year. Yeah. So it's going to change places like Atlanta in the summer.
Yep.
Houston in summer. And even if you play in a dome, you still get the humidity effect. People think, oh, they play in a dome, it doesn't matter, but it does. But a place like San Francisco, they have the highest humidity. You realize that? Not because it's more humid than Atlanta, because it's not, but they have that moisture in the air because it's right by the water.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how the ball flies in San Francisco this year when they keep those balls in a humidor. It's going to make them tighter like the ones are drier like the ones in Colorado used to be, before they added the humidor in Colorado for the opposite reason, to make the balls more moist.
So I was trying to understand the purpose of this. So this is just bringing every ball.
They want every ball to be uniform. So the places where it's dry, like in Colorado, they wanted them to be more moist, like a cigar humidor. You want to keep the cigars moist. But at places where they have high humidity, they want to keep them drier. So they want every ball to have, theoretically, that's what they want every ball to be. They want it to be a lot more uniform.
Well, that'd be good. Actually, I mean, I kind of like that. Maybe that's what we're seeing. Maybe that's the effect we're seeing. Because any park by water, I noticed during my career, the ball just doesn't fly. Safeco, especially along the West Coast, like LA at night, the ball goes nowhere. San Diego, the ball goes nowhere. So, I mean, maybe you see balls start to fly at Safeco and Dodger Stadium, Angel Stadium. And then I would think in Atlanta, it seems like the ball flies just fine. Oakland, the ball goes nowhere.
Right.
And anything real close to water, I always felt like it doesn't fly, except Cincinnati. I mean, that's just a river, but it would be interesting to see if the ball really flies in Atlanta now, because Atlanta's so humid.
And Cincinnati, the ballpark is so dinky that you can't really even tell.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. It really is, to see what this effect, because you should have an effect. I mean, it should have an effect if they actually use it and they keep them in there all day until the game time and bring them out. It should have an effect. The ball should be drier or more moist depending on where you are. So, yeah, it's funny they do that. But so at least you're doing that, but you're still in a sport where there's no uniformity at all to the ballparks themselves.
Right. You got a 230-foot fence in Yankee Stadium in right field.
Man, I saw Stanton hit a home run the other day that I'm like, that's such bullshit, man. I mean, he's a beast that can hit home runs anywhere, but that home run was not just not a home run in other ballparks, but it barely made the warning track in most ballparks.
Yeah.
It's a routine fly ball in most ballparks. Would not have made the warning track in a few ballparks, and he hits it like the second row at Yankee Stadium.
It's a joke. When you shag there, like there's a comfort distance from home plate that you like to be as a pitcher, to have kind of space and be able to catch the balls and read them and stuff. When you shag in right field at Yankee Stadium, you feel like you're standing right behind second base, and you try to move back and you realize you're 20 feet from the wall, and you don't want to get too close to the wall because the fans are screaming at you, and Yankee fans will just trash you, so you're trying to keep this distance from them. It's like it gets so crowded in right field there because it's just so small. And I think it helps right-handed hitters way more than lefties, because a lefty power hitter, if they get it, it's gone either way. But a right-handed hitter like LeMahieu, what a dream stadium for him to be able to flip balls out the other way.
Routine fly ball, and it's out.
Yeah.
I think I don't like it. I think there should be a minimum. There should be a minimum. I don't care about the quirkiness of ballparks. I like that. And there should be no maximum. They should be as big as they want them. But there should be a minimum standard for length, for distance, for fence. It's like in Houston, the Crawford boxes are listed at like whatever, 320, whatever. And they're actually like 305,
Yeah, somebody took a rangefinder out there.
Right. Yeah. But at least they're a high wall, like the Green Monster.
Yeah.
But like Yankee Stadium, it's like not even a high fence in right.
It's a short porch, and it's 238 feet.
That fence, if they're going to have it that short, they should have a 25-foot wall out there,
Yeah.
But they won't do that because then you have to eat a lot of seats, and they're not going to do that. So
no good.
Yeah. And then a guy that plays his whole career there and gets a huge contract, like Stanton, goes there and he got his huge contract. Was that pre-winter? They're going to get, it just distorts everything. For a guy that spends a lot of time there, it's like he's going to have these numbers, and you're like, I wonder what he would have hit elsewhere. But
yeah, I mean, I think about that with pitchers too. If you pitched your whole career in Yankee Stadium and now you get to go throw at Safeco, I'll put some money on that guy.
Or if a guy plays long-term in Cincinnati, Colorado, Yankee Stadium, depending on if it's righty, lefty, but it changes everything, man.
That's why Colorado just can't even get a pitcher to sign there. I don't know if it even matters how much money they throw at them, because that field is so big and the ball flies so far. You're going to get bled to death with singles.
Yeah.
Your pitches don't do anything because of the thin air. And then you do give up a well-hit ball. There's no chance it stays in the park.
Yeah.
Humidor or not.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people probably don't realize that most of the damage that pitchers get there is all those singles that fall in front of the outfielders and those extra base hits to the gaps. I mean, you hit a ball to the gap there, and it's triple. It's just made for triples, that ballpark.
Yeah. And even if you don't get the triple, the dude's scoring from first every time.
The triples leader should be from Colorado every year. If you have a speedy guy, he's going to be, because you just hitting the gap and it's going to the wall and you just run it, man. I thought, you don't want, you never want to put too much on a guy's debut, a pitcher's debut.
Yo, real quick, DOB, before we get into Elders. Man. No, you're good. Elders had a hell of a start. I just wanted to get in real quick some ads, pay some bills. Omaha Steaks partnering with us this season, bring you some exceptional deals, including 50% off plus 12 free steak burgers. All you have to do is use our promo code 755REAL. That's the number 755 and then REAL. Take that code, take it to omahasteaks.com. They have a search bar at the top of their website. Put that code in. You're going to get that 50% off your order plus those 12 free steak burgers. And for your order, they're not just limited to steak burgers. They have premium cuts of steak, chicken, pork, turkey. Didn't you have their fillets after the national championship? Was that what you were telling us last time?
I did, man. I did. I cooked a couple of those fillets, and they were chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss. David doesn't need to return, though.
Man.
He doesn't need to return what he received because he loves it. But in the rare exception that you don't feel the quality meets your expectations, you have nothing to lose because Omaha Steaks gives you a 100% unconditional money back guarantee. You have nothing to lose on this deal with a company that's been around for over 100 years. It's a 5th generation operated company, and they value quality. They use the same vendors they've been using through the last 10 decades. So make sure you use our promo code 755REAL at omahasteaks.com. Again, just take that promo code, copy paste it into the search bar at the top of omahasteaks.com's website. You're going to get that 50% off plus those 12 free steak burgers. Don't miss out on this chance.
And you know what? I think people that have never ordered food like that, they probably maybe are reluctant about buying steaks and meat through the mail like that. Mm-hmm. I cannot believe how they have perfected the mailing of those things. You get them, and they are in this styrofoam that's like indestructible, man. You'd have to take a sledgehammer to get into that, to break into that thing. It's a big styrofoam box. And you open it, and it's the dry ice in there. The steaks are still frozen. Mine were out there for 24 hours because I wasn't home. And I got there, and I took the steak, and they were still frozen. And no bleeding, no through the wrapping, none of that. No mess, no nothing.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, they do a hell of a job with the packaging of that stuff. They've perfected it. Good stuff, man. Omaha Steaks. All right. Like I said, you don't want to put too much in a pitcher's debut or any of that because the other team doesn't know him. They don't have a book on him usually at all. But I just thought I could not have been more impressed by Bryce Elder the other day. His demeanor, his mound presence is off the charts for a 22-year-old kid who was pitching in college, who was pitching in A-ball a year ago at this time.
Yeah.
And you know, and he was in the 2020 draft. Braves already have 2 guys from the 2020 draft in the majors, and they were 4th and 5th rounders. That was only a 5-round draft. And They have 2 guys, him and Spencer Strider, and they're both really impressive. But Bryce Elder, to me, this kid looks like he's going to be a star, dude. He's got it.
Well, I mean, that's the biggest question. You know, I mean, that's why you don't get too excited about guys in AAA is like the biggest hurdle is the bright lights. You know, how are they going to handle feeling uncomfortable and being on the big stage? And there's nothing you can do better to ease that. You know, like we talked about with the COVID year, the guys didn't have to deal with that. They got to get their feet wet and deal with the big leagues with empty stadiums, which might have been a hurdle itself for a lot of veterans and stuff. But for rookies, it's a lot easier to go pitch in Boston when there's no fans.
Yeah,
absolutely. So like for him to come in and pitch that well and look that calm, throwing 4 or 5 different pitches, it's really impressive. And like you said, his demeanor, I think he just, you give up a homer to Soto. That's just a tough break. You know, anybody can do that. But the next one, I can't remember who hit it. Oh, Josh Bell hit it. He just left a couple pitches up, but up until that point, he was out of gas. Inning. Yeah. And up until that point, you know, he didn't make too many mistakes. I was really impressed with how he threw.
Yeah. And that was the 6th inning where, you know, if the Braves had not been in the position they were in, where, and by the way, him and Jackson Stevens saved the day because the Braves bullpen the whole staff was worn at that point.
Yep.
For those guys to come in and throw all but 1 out in that game was huge as far as the pitching staff.
Yeah.
But yeah, Elder, this is his first major league start coming off a 3.5-week spring training, and he pitched into the 6th inning. And if he'd have taken him out after 5, you'd be looking at that start going, holy. I mean, it was until those back-to-back home runs. He hardly made any mistakes. And what impressed me even more was they start the game. The guy lays down a bunt on the first pitch of the game.
Yeah.
And you're thinking that's smart. They're getting in his head.
Yeah.
And then he's got to face Soto with a guy on first. He's thrown 1 pitch in his major league career, and Juan Soto's in the box.
Yep.
You know, and Soto singles up the middle. So I'm going, oh, God, this ain't starting out good. And then, boom, nothing else. He retires like the next 12 guys. Got like 13 outs and 12 batters because the third batter, he gets a double play grounder.
Well, and it's so easy to let the game speed up on you there. You know, I mean, you already are so out of control emotionally in your major league debut. And then you got first and second, no outs in 3 pitches, whatever it was. You know, all of a sudden it's just like, holy shit, this could turn into a disaster.
Yeah.
You know, and to stay calm and keep pitching and making pitches, I think that's just, it's kind of a poise you can't teach. I think you can learn it, but to show up with it is pretty impressive.
Yeah. Talking to Darno, this was about 3 or 4 hours before the game. I asked Darno what he remembered about him from spring training because this kid pitched as it worked out, he pitched the first Grapefruit League start when they didn't want to use any of the regulars because they had just gotten into camp, and he'd been in minor league camp because he wasn't on the 40-man roster. That's why he was in minor league camp. But he pitched the first start, and he pitched the last Grapefruit League game, and he pitched 7 2/3 innings and didn't give up any hits in spring training. So I asked Darno what he thought about him. He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, he's a hard worker, a diligent worker. He said he knows who he is, knows how to pitch, and didn't seem fazed by anything. He was talking about spring training. The moment was never too big. He just was himself the whole time, which I think goes an extremely long way in this sport.
Oh, it's everything. And that's why I say it's like, it's not necessarily something you can teach. Some guys just have that. Some guys can just roll into the big leagues and just take it like another day. But it's the hardest thing to do. I mean, that's where you see so many guys you hear about in AAA come up and struggle. I mean, that's the difference is all of a sudden there's this new pressure on them and they're overwhelmed and they can't control it all. But some guys, again, the guys that you see come up and just do well right away. Yeah. They're just born with this ability to stay calm and keep playing baseball. I don't know how I learned it. My major league debut, I couldn't even feel the ball in my hand. And I just got through the inning, luckily, but I pitched the worst I pitched in 3 months. And some guys come up and you watch them and they just cruise right through it. And it's hard to believe because I felt so much pressure, but it's always really impressive and a really good sign about the pitcher or the individual that does it, that they can handle pressure.
Yeah. He gave up the 2 hits in his first 3 pitches of his career. And then he gets Josh Bell to ground to the double play. So, and then after that, he retired 12 batters in a row until and gave up only 1 run and 2 hits through 5 innings. Yep. Then he gave up consecutive 2-out solo homers by Soto and Josh Bell in the 6th. So that was it. He said, obviously I didn't want it to end the way it did, but I think I made good pitches throughout the night. At the end, I've just got to be a little better, but I can't complain. I had a lot of fun and I enjoyed it out there. He was like, after the game, dude, you would have thought it was just, he had done this 1,000 times. He was so calm. I'm like, I said, are you more excited than you appear, or were you excited? He goes, yeah, I get excited. He goes, but he goes, I used to show more excitement and emotion in college after I'd get like a big strikeout, and then I'd be in there, and he goes, I realized I got to come back out the next inning. Yep. And I need to throw that same pitch again and then throw it again. So he said, I realized I'm not getting much out of being, showing so much emotion. So he doesn't show it. Yep. And it works for him, man. This guy is as calm as I've ever seen a young guy.
Well, I always think guys that are fist pumping and going crazy, it's a sign that they're doubting themselves. Yeah. And that's where the whole act like you've done it before thing comes from, is it's act like you meant to do that, when you have confidence in yourself and your base is loaded, 2 outs, and you're facing Pujols or something and you strike him out and just walk off the field. For me, that was the best feeling in the world, because it was like I was calm and controlled this whole time and knew I could get out of this situation. When you see guys that are, especially as a starting pitcher, fist pumping in the first, second inning. Yeah. There's a good chance they're going to gas out, because anytime you watch a reliever come into a game and get out of a ridiculous situation and they fist pump and go crazy, you come into the dugout and you think you've done your job and you let your guard down, and the pitching coach points to you and tells you you're going back out. Yeah. It is so freaking hard to get back up for it after you've already celebrated victory. Yeah. The best players are the guys that can just stay even keeled through those situations. That's a really good sign about him, that he already learned that lesson.
Yeah. He had 5 2/3 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, no walks.
Yeah, that's huge.
4 strikeouts, 85 pitches, including 50 strikes. And through 5, it was only like 59 or 60 pitches through 5 innings. I mean, he was cruising. That was the game Ozuna had the 2 homers and a double. The Braves had 19 hits. They won 16-4. They destroyed Patrick Corbin. Corbin is like 0-7 in his last 7 starts against the Braves with an ERA over 7. They have just totally figured out something in that guy. They just kill him.
It's probably just a thing now with him. Yeah. You have these opponents or teams or stadiums that you hate to pitch in. Yeah. It's like you start on the wrong foot. Just look at, just getting off the plane in San Francisco. I did okay there, but I never felt good there. Yeah. Getting off the plane there was like, fuck, I hope I don't pitch. Just because of the way that things had gone and how hard I had to battle there. But we get off the plane in Philly, and I wanted to pitch all 3 games because things had just gone well against that team. So much of it's confidence.
Jackson Stevens, man, he pitches 3 innings in that game. They brought him from AAA, added him to the 40 that day. He was a non-roster guy, signed a minor league contract. This is a guy had not pitched in a major since 2018. He had 2 years with the Reds. Was okay. Hadn't pitched in a major since then. And then he was overseas, I was thinking Korea or Japan. But he was the Venezuelan League this year. He was a pitcher of the year in the Venezuelan League. Really pitched great down there. Big strikeouts, no walks. Braves signed him to a minor league deal. Now he looks like he had, come back from Tommy John. Now he looks like he could be a big part of that pen if he can give him innings like that, be a multiple innings guy.
Oh, you can never have too many guys in your pen that can go 2 or 3 innings.
Yeah. And you got another one of those in Spencer Strider, who so far has looked really good. That big arm will play, man.
Yeah.
He might only have 2 or 3 pitches, but he throws 99, 100 like it's nothing. I mean,
it looks pretty easy.
Yeah. For a guy that's about 6 foot and maybe 190 pounds. So those two guys, that was big. Seeing what those 2 guys can bring to the table for these guys, especially after losing Luke like you did, to see Strider step up like that, and then Jackson Stevens step up like that. Pretty big. Luke had Tommy John yesterday, by the way, so he's done for the year and should be part of next year too, which kind of sucks because he was going to be a free agent. So, but glad he did it now, like you said.
Bad timing, cost him a lot.
Yeah. And by the way, they didn't tell Bryce Elder that he was pitching until 9:30 the night before, because they had to use Tucker Davidson in relief the night before. They had 2 starters the night before, both get rocked. Tucker Davidson gave up 5 runs in nothing at the end of the game, and he was bad. He gave up 5 runs too. So the 2 of them, 5 and 6 starters, both got knocked out in the same game. So they ended up bringing up Elder as a result of that.
Well, he does what he did again, and you're looking at being the number 4, 5, 6.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
he's not going anywhere anytime soon. I think his next start will be against the Dodgers in Dodger Stadium, and that will be interesting.
That's another level than the Reds.
Yeah. And I think just with his demeanor, I'll be really interested to see it. But I'll be surprised if he even gets excited, if he gets too excited there too, because I think it's just him. I think he's going to be locked in. And he did pitch in a lot of. I know it's a totally different level, but when you pitch in, in the SEC, the Big 12, go to the College World Series, you are pitching in front of big crowds on Friday nights and frenzied crowds. So it's a little different than it is at most other colleges. So, and he did pitch in Texas, and he was their big starter. So it's not like he just went into it. I mean, there's a lot more hoopla about those games than there are minor league games.
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, the minor league games, it's really hard to prepare for. I mean, half the time there's a dizzy bat race or something going on between innings, or people jumping around in sumo suits. It's kind of like the game's really not the focus. They're just trying to keep the fans entertained and get them to come back any way they can. And then if you happen to hit a walk-off in the 9th, the fans that are still there and their kids didn't scream and they had to go home, they cheer for you. But the minor leagues really don't do a great job, and I don't know how they could. I'm not criticizing them, but of preparing you for all of a sudden 50,000 at Dodger Stadium going nuts.
He by the way, Elder it was pretty cool. They stole him at 9:30. He calls his parents, his girlfriend. He had over 12 people fly in from Texas to make it the next night for his game.
That's awesome.
Yeah. His mom and dad were there, his uncle, his girlfriend, bunch of friends. So that was pretty cool to have those people there.
Getting to watch your son, because I have 3 boys now.
Yeah.
Make his major league debut. Like, if I ever had that moment, I can't even imagine it. I would fly I mean, that's what his dad said. He said I would have drove if I had to. He's not missing that, but that'd be such a cool moment. I'm jealous every time I see these dads get to watch their kids make their debut.
Yeah. Here's that quote I was talking about. He said, when I was in college, I showed more emotion. And then I kind of figured out that coming off of that, you got to go back out the next inning.
Yep.
And so I try to be as even keel as possible and go try to make one good pitch at a time and then make it again. He said, I get excited sometime for sure, but I try to keep it all consistent, even when it's going good or it's going bad. Try to be consistent as possible. Pretty good.
Staying even keeled. Just stay even keeled. Don't ride the roller coaster. I mean, that's what you tell guys early on in the season too, when they're starting off 0 for 14 with 7 punch outs.
Yeah.
Don't ride the roller coaster.
So the 3 2-out hits he gave in there before he came out, he also gave up a double. And they pulled those doubled his previous hits total in the game. He'd only given up 3 hits in the first 5 innings. So really looking forward to seeing his next start, because that was about as impressive as a debut can be for me.
Yeah. It was, yeah. That's all you can ask for.
Soto's homer, by the way, was his 100th of his career. He's up there in like the top 5 or 6 as far as fastest to 100s, right there with Acuna.
It was well struck.
And the 4th longest of his career, 451. Yeah. And considering how the ball was not flying, that made it even more impressive.
I mean, I don't know if you could throw a more perfect pitch to Juan Soto and his swing, a ball cutting in on him just a hair, belt high. I mean, it's that if you could throw that pitch to him in the home run derby, he'd hit a home run every time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's just getting tired and leaving it there. You know, that wasn't like that was his plan to throw, but that ball was destroyed. If I could have anybody swing in the game, I think I'd take Soto's.
Yeah. Elder, by the way, sinker, 4-seamer, which acts like a cutter. They called it a cutter on game day because it moves. His 4-seamer
Maybe that's what
moves.
Soto hit. I thought it was a cutter he hit.
Yeah, sinker, 4-seamer, slider, changeup, curveball. And he threw all of them in his first 8 pitches of the game.
Whew.
Yeah. Darno said it's impressive, especially at this stage when he was just called yesterday. Basically, it's cool to see him, and I'm really happy for him. He said called it tremendous. That's what Darno said.
Yeah.
5th round draft pick. It's going to be a steal of that draft because they paid him over Slot. Pitcher of the year last year in the minors for the Braves, had a 2.75 ERA and 25 starts in high A, double A, and triple A combined. And the thing was, he got better as he went up. Triple A was where he was the best last year.
Yeah.
He had set 2.45 ERA and 7 starts in triple A, 40 strikeouts, and only 1 home run allowed in 36 innings. So
normally when guys pitch better in triple A, it tells you they are actually pitching and they know how to pitch and set up hitters and all this stuff. As you see a big leaguer go down to A ball and they get frustrated because they're like, it doesn't make any sense why he was ready for a fastball in right there. And then they realize like the dudes they're facing in A ball aren't thinking.
Yeah.
This guy was committed to fastball in 5 straight pitches in a row. And even though you started him off with 4 sliders, he's still sitting dead red fastball in. So when you see guys get better as they climb the ladder, it means that they're actually pitching and not just living off their stuff. So that's a good sign too.
All right. Well, in San Diego, we're going to have Charlie Morton pitching here for the first time since that LCS that they had out here during the pandemic when he was with the Rays and they beat his old team, the Astros. So it'll be his first start since then. He pitched great that night. So you got to like the Braves' chances in that one. That's good to have him going to start this road trip. They need to start the road trip off with a nice game to get this thing going. But I think we'll have a lot better feel for where things stand after the 7 games on this trip. It'll be 14 games in 14 days to start the season.
Yeah, it's going to be a longer, harder season with less off days. It's going to be something to keep an eye on.
And already the depth is coming into play. The depth that they, especially with the pitching staff. So
short spring.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you guys again from out here on the West Coast after the weekend, after we see what they do against the Padres. But as always, if you're on YouTube, visit our sponsors that are down there in the description and give us good reviews and all that stuff. All right. 755 is real. We're out.